From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang, and welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's Monday, May 26th, 2025. It's also Memorial Day here in these United States, and thank you all for tuning in this morning. It is a bank holiday, and many people have taken the day off today in order to commemorate the memories of the many men and women who paid the ultimate price for our freedom and for our nation. And so we'll get into a little bit about Memorial Day here in just a moment. But before we do that, join me for a tradition. We've got a lot of cyber news to talk about as well today. So I've got my double espresso this morning. Coffee cup. Cheers, y'all. All right. So Memorial Day. I see people sending me messages like Happy Memorial Day. And anyone who's ever donned the uniform knows, if you've been in combat, if you know people who served in the service with you, that today's just not a happy day. Memorial Day, in reality, for many of the men and women and their families who donned the uniform, who paid the ultimate sacrifice, is a day of remembrance. It's a day of somberness. It's a day of reflecting on the sacrifice one made for our nation, for their families, for their community, and everything else there with it. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't celebrate Memorial Day, meaning we celebrate the lives that went away because we still that passed away, that paid the ultimate sacrifice, and they want to see us continue to celebrate our freedoms. And so that's kind of the balance that we tout here in the United States around Memorial Day. So people will say Happy Memorial Day. There's nothing happy about today. I'm happy that I still have my freedom. I'm happy that I still have my community, my family, and my country, obviously, but I'm in somber reflection of the many men and women that over the history of this country, over its 249 years here in just a few months, have paid the ultimate sacrifice to continue to defend the American way of doing things. And so again, that's one of those where I think it's really, really critical. And this shouldn't be political, right? There should be nothing political about Memorial Day. I've seen, last year, this episode had a slew of comments of people going like, what are you talking about? And that's, Memorial Day is not a political day. It's the one day where there should be no politics whatsoever around it. I hope you take that home. I hope that reflects with all of y'all. To the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice, thank you. To their families who live each and every single day without their loved ones, we are with you. Our thoughts and our prayers every single day. All right. We'll shift here to some cyber news because that's why everyone tuned in, not a Memorial Day lecture. So let's get into what's happening here. So Nova Scotia Power, we talked about extensively here on the show. Nova Scotia Power experienced a ransomware attack back on April 28th and on May 1st. It took the company around 14 days through forensics to analyze the fact that customer information like name, dates of birth, phone numbers, email addresses, mailing and service addresses, power consumption, service requests and payments, billing and credit history were all compromised as part of that breach. All of that's a lot of information. Now they're also saying that attackers gained access to the driver's license number, social insurance numbers, and even bank account numbers shared for pre-authorized payments. Gets even worse. The company is saying the incident didn't even highlights that it didn't cause any disruption to energy generation, transmission, and distribution. So generation in the United States and Canada, by the way, separate, and then transmission and distribution are two separate things. And so when you think of like distribution is typically the company you buy power from, transmission could be a slew of companies that transfer the electricity from the generation facility to the various switch yards until it makes it into your home or your business. And now they're confirming that they were what they described as a sophisticated ransomware attack. Now, the challenge I have here, and there's a few very legitimate questions to be asked of Nova Scotia Power. When you look at May 14th as notice and you say, how did they get power consumption, service requests, payment billing, and even credit history? How did all of that happen? And it's likely so don't talk to me about data encryption this morning, all right? Because that has nothing to do with it. The moment you're in someone's database, encryption's out. The reason encryption is out is because you're establishing trust within the system, and therefore the PKI keys are done for, right? Because trust has been established. So encrypting the data doesn't matter. That's why we often talk about segmentation. You hear about network segmentation, data segmentation, understanding all of that. This appears to be one of two things. And I don't know this for a fact, but based on all of this information, it appears that Nova Scotia Power didn't really have any sort of segmentation in place. They just had one large data lake and they put everything there. And when the threat actors were able to compromise their IT environment, they were able to get all that data. One key aspect of cybersecurity hygiene, beyond awareness trainings and everything else you hear about, is segmentation. Segmenting your data to data, like and we'll get to something here in a second around the SEC, but I'm a firm believer in the fact that we should change the definition of PII. Names, phone numbers, and email addresses and home addresses, that shouldn't be PII. That shouldn't be at all. Credit history, payments, billing, social security numbers, dates of birth, I could see those being PII. But a lot of that other stuff that you could find in a phone book, why is it PII? So there's that right there as well. So, and again, this goes to the IT OT separation. Yes, their services weren't disrupted because IT is completely separate from OT, but it still shows you the fact that even on the IT side, Nova Scotia Power likely had one large data lake. They didn't segment it. They didn't really protect it. They likely didn't have a bunch of ways to protect that information. They likely relied on an ERP system to manage most of it. And once you compromise one user in your ERP system, you're in. So there's that. The decentralized exchange by the name of CITOS Protocol has announced that cyber criminals had stolen $223 million in crypto, and it's offering a deal to stop all legal actions if the funds are returns. The project announced a $5 million bounty following Coinbase's $20 million to anyone providing relevant information leading to the identification and arrest of the criminals. The CITOS Protocol, I've never heard of them before, by the way, until this morning, is a decentralized exchange and liquidity protocol operating on the SU and APTIS blockchains. It employs a centralized liquid market maker model, allowing liquidity providers to allocate assets within specified price ranges, enhancing capital efficiency and enabling advanced trading strategies. They boast a total trading volume of nearly $57 billion, with over 15 million accounts executing over 144 million trades on their platform. According to them, the incident occurred yesterday, initially prompting CITOS Protocol to pause its smart contract for investigation. And what I mean by yesterday, this happened last week, May 22nd. So in a later statement, they've announced that the attacker exploited a vulnerable package, but no details have been disclosed. And now they're offering a $5 million bounty, kind of following the Coinbase model here. And again, all it takes is one. All it takes is one to make it happen. This is exactly what's happening here. So there's that 220. Crypto is just getting hammered right and left. And look, I love crypto like the next guy. I truly believe we need a DeFi type of currency in order to keep the markets competitive, in order to deal with the global landscape. Like, you need something, because what's happened politically is central banks have been politicized. Not anything new, but we're now hyper aware to the politicization of central banks. And so you don't really trust these currencies. And so the ability to have non-government backed currencies that are more communal is reassuring for many investors. And so there's got to be something there. And I don't know if regulation will solve it, right? I don't know, maybe, but I don't believe a lot of these cryptos want to be hacked either. So there's that. Okay, let's speed up a little bit here. Trimble's Cityworks Zeroday vulnerability is being exploited by Chinese-linked actors against local government entities in the U.S., according to Cisco Talis. The CVE 2025-09904 has a CVSS score of 8.6. It was patched back in late January. However, the defect is a deserialization flaw leading to remote code execution against Microsoft Internet Information Services web server. A GIS-centric solution, Cityworks, is used by critical infrastructure organizations, including many local government and utilities, to manage and maintain infrastructure. The CVE was added to the CISO Kev catalog back in February, and now we know that Chinese threat actors tracked as UAT 6382 have been exploiting the Zeroday since January 2025, targeting enterprise networks of local governing bodies in the U.S. They've identified the indicators of compromise overlap with those shared by Trimble. And as part of the attacks, the threat actors deployed multiple variants of the Antsword web shell, along with the China 2 and Behinder and various generic file uploaders. They also enumerated specific folders to identify files of interest for exploitation and deployed multiple backdoors through PowerShell. So China on the move there. 5 major banking associations are finally and formally petitioning the SEC to repeal its rule that's mandating public companies to disclose material cybersecurity incidents within 4 business days, arguing that the reporting requirement under Form 6K for foreign issuers and 8K 1.05 for domestic issuer poses unnecessary risk and fails to serve its intended purpose of investor protection. The petition, submitted under Rule 192 of the SEC's Rules of Practice, was jointly signed by the American Banker Association, Bank Policy Institute, Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association, Independent Community Bankers of America, and the Institute of International Bankers. These organizations represent the vast majority of U.S. and global financial services sector, including firms that collectively manage trillion in assets. I've spoken against this SEC rule so many times. It conflicts with so much. It just adds so much to everything, and it doesn't make organizations more secure. It's foolish, and it should be. They should get rid of it. Period. End of discussion. Get rid of it. You want people to report it. Mandate that within 90 days of an incident, you have to report whatever details of that incident. That would make a whole lot more sense. Ransomware attackers are charged and infrastructure dismantled in an international law enforcement operation in the EU and North American law enforcement agencies, disrupting key infrastructures this week that was used to launch ransomware attacks as part of an ongoing operation dubbed Operation Endgame. Europol said 300 servers and 650 domains were taken down worldwide, while $3.5 million was seized during raids throughout the week. Multiple arrest warrants were issued for nearly 24 people allegedly involved in the ransomware industry. As part of the operation, prosecutors in the U.S. charged 16 members of the Dana bot malware family, the Justice Department saying that the malware was used to infect more than 300,000 computers and facilitated ransomware attacks as well as fraud, amounting to nearly $50 million worth of damage. Multiple tech companies like CrowdStrike, Amazon, ESET, Google, Proofpoint, Zscaler, PayPal, and more assisted in Operation Endgame. Europol saying that the latest phase of the operation is targeting new malware variants. So good for them. And now they're dismantling Danabot. The attackers, 39-year-old Alexander Stepanov and 34-year-old Artem Alexandrovich Klankin, both of whom live in Dubrovnik, Russia. Each face a litany of charges, including wire fraud, identity theft, damage to a computer, wiretapping, and more. They face up to 72 years if convicted, while Stepanov faces 5 years. Court's document said that while Danabot developers and many affiliates are located in Russia, some users are located in countries like Poland and Thailand since the investigation began. There's that there. And then Operation Raptor takes down 270 dark web drug traffickers, according to international law enforcement. Again, this is a joint U.S.-EU law enforcement seizing more than 200 million and 144 kilograms of fentanyl or fentanyl-laced narcotics, alongside 180 firearms as part of the effort dubbed Operation Raptor. The action built upon the previous takedowns of marketplaces like Incognito, Nemesis, Tor2Door, Bohemia, and Kingdom Markets. The Operation Raptor shows that the dark web is not beyond reach of law enforcement. Europol said there were 130 arrests in the U.S., 42 in Germany, alongside multiples in the U.K., France, Austria, Netherlands, Brazil, Switzerland, Spain, and even South Korea. Overall, nearly 2 tons of drugs were taken. 184 million in cash and crypto were captured by Europol. 180 firearms were confiscated. 12,500 counterfeit products were taken, and more than 4 tons of illegal tobacco were also confiscated as part of this operation. The DOJ providing dozens of individual examples of recent arrests and charges there as well. 60 packages have been discovered in the NPM index that attempt to collect sensitive host and network data and send it to a Discord webhook controlled by a threat actor. According to Socket's threat research team, the packages were uploaded to the NPM repository starting May 12th from 3 different publisher accounts. Each of them contain a post install script that automatically executes during NPM install and collects host name, internal IP addresses, user, home directory, current working directory, username, and system DNS. Some of these packages are still available on NPM, and even data wipers have been found to be available on NPM. The packages the wipers which targeted the React, Vue.javascript, Vite, Node.javascript, and Quell ecosystems existed for the past 2 years, getting over 6,200 downloads. So all in all, we're seeing that there. Signal on Friday shipped a new feature that automatically blocks all screenshots of its chat window, positioning it as a privacy shield aimed at Microsoft's controversial window recall technology that logs on-screen activity every few seconds for AI search. The new Signal feature sets a screen security flag that blocks the Windows OS from capturing screenshots of Signal chats. If a user or recall utility tries, the result is a blank frame. Good for them. More of that, please. More of that, please. The Bumblebee malware SEO poisoning campaign uncovered earlier this week, AIM impersonating RVT tools is using more typo squatting domains, mimicking other popular open source projects to infect devices used by IT staff. Bleepy Computer was able to find at least 2 cases of leveraging the notoriety of ZenMap and the GUI of Nmap network scanning tools and the WinMTR traceout utility. Both of these tools are commonly used by IT staff to diagnose or analyze network traffic. It requires admin privileges for some of the features to work. This makes users of these tools prime targets for threat actors looking to breach corporate networks and spread laterally to other devices. The Bumblebee malware loader has been pushed throughout at least 2 domains, zenmap.pro and winmtr.org. While the latter is currently offline, the former is still online and shows a fake blog page about ZenMap when visited recently. So something to keep in mind there and block some of those typo squatting. A Russian national has been indicted in the U.S. for leading the infamous CAC-bot malware and botnet. The individual Rostam Rafalovich Galimov, 48, allegedly developed, deployed, and controlled the CAC-bot malware beginning in 2008. He's also known as PinkSlipBot and QBot. CAC-bot was distributed through spam campaigns, hijacked email threads, or the exploitation of known vulnerabilities in internet-facing assets. According to the newly unsealed indictment, starting in 2019, the CAC-bot gang led by Galimov infected hundreds of thousands of computers worldwide. Galimov and his co-conspirators allegedly sold access to CAC-bot infected machines to other cyber criminals who deployed ransomwares like Black Basta, Cactus Conti, and Revel. So there's all of that. According to the indictment, Galimov continues to engage in activities involving computer hacking, malware deployment, data theft, and extortion. So there's that there. The U.S. estimates that the illicit proceeds seized by Galimov are worth over $24 million, and they seized around $4 million of his crypto. So again, this is part of Operation Endgame. We'll see where this ends up. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest cybersecurity news. Please make sure to subscribe, follow, share, like, comment. Check out CyberHubPodcast.com or follow us on your favorite social media platforms. You can find us anywhere you get your news. CyberHubPodcast.com. Go check it out. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your holiday if you're not working today. And please take a moment to reflect on the great sacrifice that many Americans made in order for us to enjoy all the freedoms we currently have in our nation. On behalf of myself and the team here at CyberHub Podcast, have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.